we're gonna work on the coral just below our little clownfish here. And I wanna talk about a couple different things. First of all, wax resist. Good old Crayola crayon. You can use a white crayon to keep it the white of the paper, or you can use a color that's similar to the color that you're gonna use and add a little bit of texture. That's kind of what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna kind of add some little highlight bits on the top or on the pieces that I feel like would get hit with the light. I'm gonna press pretty dark on some of them, and on others, I'm gonna leave it a little bit more light because that'll be more texture. So on the inner side pieces, I'm just leaving a little bit of texture there just to see what it does. Now, because this coral is very nondescript, it doesn't have to look like anything in particular, I can do as much or as little of this crayon as I wanted to, and it would look fine. It's a really kind of a versatile tool that's a little bit low profile, not super descript, but adds just a little bit of extra texture. If I can see where I've added my coral on the underneath side, there we go. Okay, so just in a few places there. And then I'll put some over here. And then one on that tiny little guy back behind our fish. I think I was gonna erase him, but oh well, he's there now. All right, so in all that area that I've done that wax resist, I'm gonna get my color. You do whatever color you want. I picked the pink because it was the first light color crayon I could find. And you can see that that water doesn't want to be in the same space as the wax crayon. So it's going to resist, it's going to go over to the other areas. That wax is a hydrophobic material, so it doesn't, ooh, too pink. It doesn't want to be in that same area. So I'm just doing a flat wash over this coral area, and if I miss some spots, it's okay. If I go over something twice, it's okay. It's just going to be the first go over. And we're just trying to fill it in with all those first bits of color. Now I want to make sure that I don't go over on top of my fish because, well, for obvious reasons, he's the fish. He's more of a star player in our composition than the coral is. If your coral is not the desired darkness that you wanted, or if you want some areas to be a little bit darker, you are welcome to put more pigment in, or you are welcome to drop color into your coral, which are two perfectly good ways of using your watercolor paint. So we could, it's called either a wet in wet, if our paints are still wet through here, or it could be a drop color. So as I've gone through it, I've taken a little bit of extra time here, and some of my areas are already drying, partially because of that, they have that wax resist in there, partially because I didn't put a whole lot of paint on there. So we have those two reasons. I'm gonna make sure that it's as wet as it needs to be so that I can do some drop color. Let's see, I wanna do something that's similar on the color wheel. So maybe a little bit of this, but then I have that coral, or I have the clownfish, it's gonna be that orange color. Maybe I'll do a little bit of purple. I'll grab some purple over here. Now, make sure you don't confuse your purple with your Payne's gray like I almost just did. When you could use your Payne's gray with your pink and just make it a little bit of a darker, moodier pink. Heck, why not? Just throw a little bit in there. Pull some of that pink back through so I get it not too far from my original color. And then I can either press and lift. That's a perfectly good way to do it. Press and lift. And you'll just have those blooms in there. Or some people like to squeegee, and you can let it drop, if it will. Oh, I don't even have enough on there to drop. Just do a drop in there. Maybe. Maybe I don't have a big enough brush to do a drop. Shoot, my brush isn't big enough to do a drop. I could get a bigger brush. Make sure it's loaded up. And then get more of that pink in there. And then do a drop over here, hopefully. There we go, there's a drop. I don't love the drop because I like control, shocker. And see, some of my stuff is already dried. You can see where the areas have dried out because I have this harder line of that darker pink through there. But I'm gonna continue adding just a little bit more variation with that darker pink because I like it in there. I like a little bit of contrast. And plus it's gonna make some of the, what are we calling it? Coral look like it goes back into space. And even on some of these areas where it's already dry, I can be a little bit more careful and go back behind that, and it makes this part looks like it's out coming towards us a little bit more. So that's wax resist, wet into wet, and another wash.